Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we will be taking a look at the latest polling data that we have from every single state and applying that to the electoral map, looking at how the electoral map takes shape if we look at the very latest poll from every state. Who wins, what are the results, what are some surprising state calls, and what that electoral map looks like. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to say, please consider subscribing to the channel. We're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. That's the goal, and that helps out massively. So, getting into this video, again, we will just be taking a look at the latest Biden versus Trump polls from every state. We will be discluding polls that were conducted by campaigns, of course, because those campaign polls will favor that particular candidate, and whatever, we'll try to avoid the inaccurate polls. But with that being said, again, this is not a prediction. We are just looking at the latest poll from every single state. So as you can see, in Alabama, which we are on, we're going to go in alphabetical order. In the very latest poll from Florida Atlantic University, Donald Trump leads Joe Biden by 20%. So this would be characterized as a safe state, the state of Alabama. That's a 15% margin or more if it is a safe state. Now looking at Alaska, in the very latest poll from the Bullfinch Group, we see that Donald Trump is ahead by 23%, a very big win in Alaska, considering that he only won it by 10 in 2020. So that would be a major shift towards Donald Trump in 2024. Now we have one of the most critical battleground states, the state of Arizona. We see in the average, Donald Trump leads by 5.6%. But in the very latest poll between Biden and Trump, he leads by 5, so just about the same margin. That would be a likely state for Donald Trump, which is just shocking that it's even likely, because Biden won this state in 2020. This was Biden's state in the last election, so not only would this be a flip, but it's a flip into the likely margin territory. That is something that you just typically don't see very often. In Arkansas now, in the very latest Biden versus Trump poll, this is all the way back in October, but we see that Donald Trump led Joe Biden by 32%, so of course that would be a safe state. And then we have Colorado. In the average, Biden is ahead by about 20, but in the latest poll, he's ahead by 25, still a safe characterization no matter what. And then let's move on now to the state of Colorado. A few years ago was a swing state, now not so much. So we see that these latest polls are sponsored by the Democratic Party, but in the latest unbiased poll, Joe Biden is ahead by 10% over Donald Trump in that matchup. So that would be a likely margin, not too much, not so different from the 2020 results. Now moving on to the state of Connecticut. In the latest Biden versus Trump poll, Joe Biden is only ahead by 9%, which is shocking, really, because he won the state by 20% back in 2020. That would be an 11% shift to the right. You can just see how unfavorable Joe Biden is in this election to voters. Now, in the state of Delaware, we don't have any Biden versus Trump polls, only Kennedy versus Trump and Kennedy versus Biden. So if there aren't any polls, we can just expect a state like Delaware to be safe, considering that, it's so unimportant and so safe for the respective party that there aren't even any polls conducted. Same goes for the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. That will be safe. And then looking at, that's 2020, but looking at Florida, Donald Trump is ahead in the average by 8.7%. But in the very latest Biden versus Trump poll, Trump is ahead by 6%. So much less, or much closer than what the average is indicating, but still a very good win for what was, just a few years ago, very much a swing state. Now, Georgia, this was a Biden state in 2020, and the average, Trump is ahead by 6, but in the latest poll, Trump is ahead by 3, so it does get a lot closer in this latest poll, but Georgia is a lean state for Joe Biden, but that's another flip. That's exactly what Donald Trump likes to see, which, despite the margin, he wants to see him flipping Biden states. In Hawaii, the latest Biden versus Trump poll only has Biden ahead by 8%, just 8%. Now, when you look back at 2020, he won the state by 30 points, basically. So this would be a 22-point shift to the right if Biden does, in fact, end up winning it by only 8 percentage points. In the state of Ohio, in the latest Biden versus Trump poll, Trump is ahead by 29%, of course. As expected, that is a safe state. And then in Illinois now, Biden versus Trump in the latest poll, Joe Biden was ahead by 10 points, So that's a likely margin win, not a good performance there by Joe Biden. In the state of Indiana, Biden versus Trump, the very latest poll, Donald Trump was ahead by 21 points. For reference, let's just look. He won it by 16, so he's gaining 5 points from 2020. And then in Iowa, the latest poll was actually sponsored by the Republican Party. However, the poll before that, which is known as the most accurate pollster in America, I'm not kidding, the Des Moines Register with Ann Selzer and Company, had Donald Trump ahead by 18%, which is, just insane. He won the state by 8% in 2020. And now the most accurate pollster in the nation is predicting that he's going to shift the state by 10 points. That is simply unheard of. Looking at the state of Kansas now, Donald Trump was ahead by 16 in the latest poll. That's a safe state for him. And then before that, in Kentucky, Donald Trump was ahead by 28% in the latest poll. Then we have Louisiana. Latest poll, Trump is ahead by 15, so that does enter safe territory, which is surprising because he won it by 19 in 2020. So for whatever reason, that poll's predicting that Trump loses support in 2024. So in Maine, we have many polls. They split their electoral votes by the at-large vote and by congressional district. In the general election, in the at-large vote, the latest poll does show Biden ahead by 2, and he gets lucky here because all the polls before that show Trump ahead by 1, and then even, and then Trump up by 1. So, but the latest poll does have Biden winning Maine by a lean margin. However, in the 2nd congressional district, latest poll shows that Trump is ahead by 20%, very much a safe margin for him there. He only won it by 8 in 2020. And then in the 1st congressional district, Biden is ahead by 8%, which is a likely margin victory there. Then we have Maryland, of course, a very Democratic state in the latest poll. Joe Biden is ahead by 26%, so well into safe margin territory for him there. In Massachusetts, Biden is ahead by 18 in the latest poll. Not very good for him at all. He won it by 33 in the last election, so even in blue states, a heavy shift towards Donald Trump. In Michigan, Donald Trump is ahead in the average by 2.3%. He's been gaining the past few days. But in the latest Trump versus Biden poll, Donald Trump is actually ahead by 3. But even that is a sponsor of the Democratic Party. But, before that, then we had we haven't had a nonpartisan poll since July, really. All the polls since then have been funded by the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But in July, or the 11th through the 13th, we see that Donald Trump is ahead by 3. That is the latest nonpartisan poll. So we can put Michigan into Donald Trump's column. Now, Joe Biden won the state by 2.8% in 2020. So this is about a 6-point shift towards Donald Trump. That would be a huge win for Trump in 2024. So the average in Minnesota now currently has it even. Both Biden and Trump at 42%. However, the very latest poll from Emerson College with The Hill does show Donald Trump ahead by 1%. So that means that Minnesota is now a red state. That would just be shocking if it happened because Minnesota voted for Biden by 7%. It is regarded as a very Democratic state. Hillary won the state by 1.5. The last time, now I always bring this up, the last time that Minnesota went Republican, not even in the 1984 Reagan landslide, no, it was 1972. That is the last time Minnesota voted Republican. So the point is, it would be truly historic if Minnesota does, in fact, go Republican. The latest poll does indicate just that. In Mississippi, the latest poll had Trump ahead by 18%. That's a safe margin for him there. And then you've got Missouri in the latest poll. Trump was ahead by 16. Many wins for Trump here. And another one with Montana. We actually haven't had a single nonpartisan poll, but so I guess we'll just take the latest, even though it is a sponsor for the Republican Party. But regardless, Trump was ahead by 20%, so that's a safe margin there. So Nebraska also splits their electoral votes by congressional district, as well as the at-large vote. So in the at-large vote, we see that Trump was ahead by 19, no surprise there. And the latest poll in the 2nd congressional district actually indicates a tie. It is even in the latest poll. So we will go to the next most recent poll, which is a sponsor of the Republican Party, so we can throw that away. But we see, let's see, in the 2nd congressional district, the latest poll does show Donald Trump ahead by 3%. Does show Donald Trump leading in the 2nd congressional district, which Biden won in 2020 by 6.6. Now I don't believe, so we don't have any polling from the 1st and 3rd congressional districts, but they are safe Republican. They are definitely not competitive in 2024. Next up, we have Nevada. In the average, Donald Trump is ahead by 5.7%. However, in the latest Trump versus Biden poll, Trump is actually ahead by 7%. 7%. Now, Nevada went into Biden by 2.4 in 2020, so that would be a 9-point shift to the right. I mean, just, these shifts that we have not seen really, in recent history, in recent memory. We just simply don't see these types of trends, especially in today's very partisan politics. But in the state of New Hampshire, which is becoming increasingly close, the latest poll that's got a lot of attention does show Donald Trump ahead. He does lead in the latest poll by 2%. So New Hampshire now flips to Donald Trump. Biden won this one by 7.4 back in 2020. In New Jersey, it gets even worse, way worse for the Biden campaign. In New Jersey, the latest poll shows Donald Trump ahead by 1. Now that's a lean margin. This is the most shocking of all because New Jersey voted for Biden in the last election by 16%. That would be a 17-point shift to the right if that happens. New Jersey is a safe Democratic state. The last time, New Jersey went Republican was in 1988 in a Republican landslide where George H.W. Bush won it. So, we have these very, very, very safe Democratic states that are now becoming competitive. New polling is indicating that we simply don't see these types of things. As for the state of New Mexico, in the latest nonpartisan poll, Joe Biden is ahead by 7%. This is a pretty Democratic state. That's a likely margin for him there. In New York, he is ahead in the average by 9.2, but in the latest poll, he's only ahead by 8%. That's a likely margin win for Biden in the state of New York. If he lost that, then it would be completely game over, if it isn't already. And then we've got North Carolina. In the average, Trump leads by 7, but in the latest poll, that is nonpartisan, he only leads by 2, which is definitely interesting to see. He only leads by 2% in North Carolina, and he won it by 1.3 in 2020, so that would be a very small trend to the right. In North Dakota, wow, I'm surprised we actually have any polling, but the latest poll does indicate that Trump will win by some 34%. A huge win for him there. In Ohio, in the latest poll that is nonpartisan, Trump is ahead by 7. That's about what he won it by in 2020, so that stays with him there. In Oklahoma, of course, it is Trump plus 30, so it is a safe state for Donald Trump. Then we've got Oregon. In the latest nonpartisan poll, Joe Biden is ahead by 11%. That's a likely margin win for him there. Then we've got Pennsylvania. I say the most critical battleground state in 2024. In the average, Trump is ahead by 4.4. However, in the very latest nonpartisan poll, that is Biden versus Trump, he is actually ahead by 4. So just about that same type of margin. Another flip for Donald Trump. And, we've still got many states to go. And Donald Trump is already nearing 270 electoral votes. He's at 155. Next up, we have the state of Rhode Island. Biden leads by only 7% in the latest poll. Now, he won the state of Rhode Island by 25% back in 2020. Now, we got South Carolina. Let's see, in the latest nonpartisan poll, Trump is ahead by 14%. That is where I expect it to land, somewhere around there as well. We've got South Dakota, of course, a safe state for Donald Trump in the latest poll. And then we've got Tennessee, known as a Republican state, and yes, the latest polling indicates that Donald Trump will win by some 30%. Then we've got Texas. In the average, he's ahead by 8.2. However, in the latest nonpartisan poll, he is ahead by 9, just about where the average indicates the race is. I also expect the race to fall somewhere near there. He won it by 5.6 back in 2020. And with Texas, Donald Trump well surpasses 270 electoral votes. He now has 318 to Biden's 169, an absolute blowout as of right now. Then we've got Utah, yet another Trump state. He wins it by a safe margin. And then we've got Vermont, a Biden state. Biden wins in the latest poll by 31%. Then we've got Virginia. In the average, Biden leads by 1.4. However, in the latest poll, Biden leads by 1. So at least he does win Virginia. Gives, him a little boost with his campaign. But really, not that much. And then we've got the state of Washington. In the latest poll, Biden is ahead by 14. That makes it a likely margin state for him. And then we've got the state of West Virginia. Of course, a very, very, very safe Republican state. Donald Trump is guaranteed to win West Virginia. We've got Wisconsin, one of the most critical battleground states, 10 electoral votes. In the average, Trump leads by 2.3. In the latest poll, he leads by 3. A lean margin win. That is another flip for Donald Trump. And then, of course, we have Wyoming. I don't need to look at the polling here. Biden, he's at 15% literally in the latest poll. So that gives him a 53-point win in the state of Wyoming, which just makes this an absolute blowout. Look at this electoral map. Process this. This is what the latest polls are indicating in every state. Donald Trump would win with 341 electoral votes. Joe Biden just 197. He doesn't even cross 200, and you need 270 to win. So obviously Donald Trump is crushing Joe Biden in terms of the polling game right now, and he is very much favored to win this election when you look at, really all the metrics, the polling numbers, fundraising. Now he's getting his game up. So thank you all for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe down below. It helps a lot. Again, we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. Drop a comment to let me hear your thoughts, and I will see you all next time.